He was once undefeated, a trash-talking wrestling genius with an unorthodox style and Olympic-level skill set. Ben Askren, the name every MMA fan either admired or mocked, but no one could ignore him, and no one truly predicted how drastically his legacy would change with just 5 seconds on the clock. That knee, that night, and that opponent, Jorge Masvidal, etched a permanent mark in UFC history and turned Askren from the most hyped undefeated welterweight to the face of a viral defeat that shook the internet. But 2025 has whispered something different, something intriguing. Because for the first time in years, Ben Askren's name is being murmured not just in memes, but in MMA gyms, podcast interviews, and quiet gym sessions away from the spotlight. And this is where the comeback rumor begins to swirl. Did he ever really leave, or was he always preparing for a different kind of return, one not for titles, but for redemption, purpose, and closure? Behind the scenes, fans are starting to notice photos resurfacing. Ben hitting pads again, not flashy, not loud, just focused, and it raises questions many thought were buried with his retirement announcement. But let's rewind and look beyond the knockout, because before the flying knee that made UFC headlines, Askren was an undefeated Bellator and ONE championship champion, and that record didn't break because of one loss. It was built over years of dominance, grind, and mind-bending strategy that baffled strikers and forced elite fighters into wrestling clinics. And even after his fall from grace, Ben didn't disappear. He transitioned into podcasting, mentoring, and coaching, letting the fight world fade behind the curtain, but never fully closing the door. And now in 2025, what if that door is creaking open again? Not for a flashy pay-per-view showdown, but for something more meaningful, a final chance to show the world he's more than a moment, more than a meme, more than just the guy who got knocked out in 5 seconds, because real fans know what he brought to the table. A fighter's mind, a gritty style, and an authenticity rare in combat sports. And as whispers grow louder, reports of him training again, reflecting on his past, speaking about competition with a spark in his voice, fans are starting to sense something is coming, something emotional, powerful, and unexpected. And even if he never steps into the octagon again, this journey might be his real victory, because redemption isn't always a belt or a win, sometimes it's reclaiming your narrative, and right now, Askren might be quietly doing just that, rebuilding not for others, but for himself. And if you're not watching closely, you'll miss the subtle brilliance of this evolution, because comeback stories don't always scream, sometimes they whisper. And in the echoes of those whispers lies the true heart of a fighter who refuses to be defined by a single loss. And that's why this story matters. Not because of what happened in 2019, but because of what's happening now, in 2025, away from bright lights, in the sweat-soaked silence of wrestling mats and solo drills, where legends aren't made, they're reborn. And if you blink, if you scroll past, you'll miss it. And that would be a mistake, because Ben Askren's name isn't done echoing in the MMA world just yet, and the comeback, whether physical or spiritual, is unfolding right now, with each punch, each post, and each pause he takes before answering those questions fans have longed to ask. And while the world obsesses over knockouts, maybe this time, we pay attention to the quiet strength of getting back up and rewriting the story we all thought we knew.